would send us the same when our physical health is at risk. It's possible for a social networking website to capture all the data about your past status updates and create a personality profile for you. But then if you were to ask a doctor to do the same and analyze your current health status, it would be possibly virtually impossible. But then this was the past. The future, as we see, is going to change. Because the revolution that happened in the IT sector in the last 20 years, the same revolution is now going to happen in the healthcare sector. And the distinguished entrepreneurs that we have here today in our panel are testimony to that. So let's have a big hand, let's welcome them. And to facilitate today's session, we have with us Mr. Amit Mokim. Amit is a board member at TIE, and he's also the South Asia head for IMS Health, and in the past has been the head of healthcare for KPMG. So I'll let Mr. Amit Mokim take over from here now. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Am I audible? Yes. So, very good afternoon, and I think it's very, very pleasing to see so many people who are interested, who are in this space, and who are going to contribute to building healthcare. So one of the things we were discussing, to what Vishal mentioned, is how many of you all believe that this is the safest place to be, given so many healthcare entrepreneurs are lest something happen to you. Come on. Not so bad. So I've got a very interesting group of entrepreneurs here. And what we thought was, rather than doing a one-way session, I would request each of them to spend not more than 5 to 10 minutes talking about their business, maybe one or two things that went right, went wrong, but then leave the rest of the hour for all of you to ask whatever you all want. Because some of y'all are in the journey of setting up your businesses, some of y'all are in your next chapter, third chapter. So get as much out of these guys as you can over the next 1.5 hours. There are some prizes as well, so I won't steal the thunder from Vishal. But quick introductions. So on my right is Subhashish, a very dear friend who's joined us from Bangalore. And he used to be in Wharton and then spent some time in NASA before he came back, and along with a bunch of specialists has set up a health risk assessment and analytics firm to actually predict health risk for individuals. Very interesting platform which he's scaling up across India and globally. On my left is Vishal, who I call the teenage entrepreneur, because he set up his first company at the age of 60. And how many of you all wear or have worn something, a wearable gadget which tracks steps, is what Vishal does, by the brand of Goki, along with certain investments he's made in many other healthcare businesses. Vishal has a few gifts to give you all if you answer the right questions as well as some money. And then we have Shashank, who founded Practo, and I'm sure whoever set up an appointment with a doctor would have got an SMS from Practo talking about what time your appointment is, and that's where Shashank makes his money, and lots of it. We have Shantanu next to Shashank, who's founded an appointment booking engine called DocSuggest, and it's basically bridging the gap between users and service providers. Interestingly, Shashank, in your introduction, your favorite sport is called juggling. I don't know what that means, but what it says is you juggle between the roles of marketing, web designing, sales, testing, HR, and sometimes that guy on the phone in the office, and it's all very boring. So show us some real juggling. And then we have Shrikant, who set up Diabeto, given the huge opportunity with millions of diabetics and pre-diabetics in this country. And it's a hardware device, and Shrikant, love for you to speak more about it, which transmits data into a smartphone. So you're right in there between the patient and the phone. So without further ado, I thought it would be great for each of you all to talk a little bit about your company. What is it that you all have been through in this journey over the last few years, where you are, and maybe a tip for the budding entrepreneurs out here. Over to you, Subhashish.
All right. I kind of knew when I was sitting next to you that I'll be the first one. Thank you for giving this opportunity to me. It's been quite a journey. I can tell you, I spent 30 years of my life in the US, 3-0, and then quit everything one fine morning to come and do this. So actually when Dr. Vishal was actually mentioning all the future things that could happen, I just want to kind of steal your thunder and say that it's not future, it's now. We are going to be doing these things, we are doing these things. Except I don't have the engine right now to be able to inform all of you what your risks are until you start participating with me. Okay, I'm not a hospital, I'm just an analytics, we're just an analytics company called Health Vectors. This journey began when one fine morning, I was just in the US enjoying my Sunday morning. Actually get this call from my friend's wife, and the 4 words she uttered that day changed my life completely. She said, Shobtik is no more. Shobtik is the name of the person that I'm talking about who's no more. And this is a guy, 32-year-old guy, young, strapping, healthy dude, you know, really healthy guy. And you know, he used to do health checks on a regular basis on his birthday. That's how much he treasured in his life, you know. And so 2 months after he had celebrated his 32nd birthday, that was when I got this call. I was just beside myself. At that time, you know, my PhD in engineering degree from Wharton and my lavish life in the US, nothing really mattered. Everything felt like was really, what is it worth, you know? So I picked up 2 suitcases, left the US, came into India, just trying to find out what exactly happened. And you know, I went to Calcutta. That's where my friend passed from, and I did health checks there, like maybe 5-6 health checks myself. I said, what is it that they didn't tell him that could have saved his life, you know? Now, imagine you taking your car to a garage and you know, you get it fixed and everything, and then it just dies on the road. That's the feeling, you know, that your body may be complex, but a lot is understood, and we don't employ what is understood. So, to make a long story short, what I found out were 3 most important things I can tell you. One is, the doctors all along knew that he had some risk factors, correct, for cardiovascular disease, but nobody knew the severity of those risks. So, if you don't know the severity, if you don't know how to even calculate those things, how do you convey that to somebody? And let's say they even knew what the severity was, they couldn't tell him what are the simple step-by-step processes that he could take to avoid the risks that he had, to avoid this death. So his risk was at somewhere like 74-78%, but he could have actually reduced his risk quickly by quitting smoking. We all know quitting smoking for a person who smokes, you know, is maybe the toughest thing in the world. You know, so is that what you leave it up to? Well, he could have reduced his risk by reducing his cholesterol. You know, he could have reduced his risk by reducing his BP. All the numbers are there. But what I'm really trying to tell you is there's a simple things that could have been done by giving him simple medication for the time being to bring those risks down, and then attend to other things so that at least he can celebrate more birthdays, right? So the idea is, in this world today, in spite of all the advances that we have in technology and medical sciences, we still are stuck in that domain, what I call detect and contain. Now, each one of you over here, and there are people who are part of hospitals and all, I'm going to ask you one question. It's one challenge to you. Go and ask these people, or whoever you know who does preventive health check, what does preventive health check mean to you? And they will tell you, we catch the disease real early and stop it from growing big. And try catching diabetes real early. If you caught it, whether you catch it through clinical data or you catch it through symptoms, it's too late. Very late, you have to start taking medicine from there on. So the point that I'm trying to make is we are stuck in that domain where it's detect and contain. Health Vectors as a company is moving into another domain called predict and prevent. Okay, that's where we want to be. That's what we are doing well. And actually, it's not just that, you know, it's not just mathematics and not just equations and not just science. We are touching so many people's lives today. That's what is most, you know, interesting to me, and that's what is more rewarding to me. So I'll leave it up to you guys to ask questions, but right now let me just say this to you. We have built a tool where you actually input information in there. Again, I believe in putting information which is more, putting in information that is more realistic, not asking you to put your weight, which you're always going to put low numbers, or asking you to put your height where you'll always put high numbers. So I believe in taking the real numbers and putting that into these models, and then we are able to tell you what your risks are, and that's what we do. And not only risks, what we have now started to do is taking all those complex parameters, we are then able to put information in front of the doctor, which clearly enunciates what the issues and problems are with this individual. Okay, he doesn't have to delve into this office distractions and all these things, right? Because he will ask 5 questions, forget 3, look at a 15-page report. It's impossible. It's almost inhuman to ask a doctor to be able to render a perfect solution every time. But what we have been able to do is put it right in front of the doctor, a clinical decisioning support system for asymptomatic subjects. And as soon as, so people who are not showing symptoms, and as soon as that is done, we are then able to give the solution that we said. We are creating automated diet plans for them. We are creating all those solutions for them right now. And for Practo and for others that are sitting here, what we are starting to do is we are also taking that information. So if this person needs to meet a cardiologist, for example, we right there put in who are the 3 top cardiologists in that area right there, how much distance, and if you want to book an appointment, you just click on it and you got it. You need to be at the gym, you have it right there. So the recommendations and this dashboard that we're creating, and we're very careful about data privacy, so please feel assured that once we are in touch with that information, that's where it stays. Okay? So without any further conversations, I just want to leave it up to you guys to ask questions.
So we'll open it up at the end, Subhashish, but while you close, one key challenge that you faced or are facing, and one tip for the entrepreneur group here, and then I'll pass it on to Vishal.
Okay. The toughest thing was when I tried to give this idea to the doctors. Honestly, I got kicked out of many of these doctors' offices. This is 2.5, 3 years ago. And I can tell you, 5 of the jewels which I have in my team today, the doctors, are the same people who kicked me out. You can ask them questions. They are now the biggest evangelists. They said they now believe that we are onto something. Okay? I won't go any further. You know what Vinod Khosla has to say about all this. But all I can tell you is we are there to help them, not to replace them. Please don't make that mistake. There's a lot that the doctors bring to the table. That is not our intention. Our intention is to see that each person gets proper attention with the proper information and data. Everything driven by data, and then the doctor's touch makes it all beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Subhashish. Vishal, over to you.
So first of all, I like to say I don't know what I'm doing at a healthcare conference or healthcare event, because A, we do not give any health advice. We have no doctors, we don't give any medical advice of any kind, and these are all disclaimers I have to actually give before I talk. So we are not a health service of any kind, and all the advice which I will give you here is you're not supposed to take it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to give you any advice. So now I can start giving you advice now that I've given you. This is the first thing you learn in this business, that you need to make sure you give all your disclaimers. I think that's one thing.
That's why I didn't make disclaimers, because I'm so new to this.
But having said that, I mean, this is a fun. It's a fun thing for me actually. The reason I'm doing this is because I saw something which changed me. That's where it really started. When I was running my last company, while it was a games company, and while I was in school, I was very athletic and in sports. Running a startup made me like a volleyball myself. It was very, very unhealthy life. Too much pizzas and no exercise. And I decided, like any geek, that I'll download all these free apps and buy all these devices and I'll get fit. So I got every possible device. I know Abhishek is here, he used to see all my devices, including things to measure how much water I drink. I had name any possible device or gadget, I have probably owned it at some point of time. However, it was just a matter of a few weeks, a few months, and then I used to get the next device and the next device and the next device, but really nothing worked. What worked was when I started working with a coach who said, you know what, forget all this, just give me access to your data and I'll tell you what to do. And that's what made the change. And what literally happened was, while I used to travel, this coach of mine used to text message me, email me and say, ye karo, wo karo, eat this, tell me what you ate today. And to cut a long story short, by just following remote advice from a coach, I went from being on the couch to now I just finished running my 10th half marathon. I've done 4 ultra marathons. I was trekking in Ladakh last year. I'm off to actually Himalayas later this month. So the bottom line was, I saw, wow, I've made all these changes in my life, and I did every blood test. By the way, I do a monthly blood test, and I was showing him I have every data of every cell in my body, and clearly all indications were going in the right direction. So the bottom line is that what you really need is not any medicine or not anything. What you need is a lifestyle change. That is the reality. All of us here, all of us need to change our lifestyle. That's the crux of the problem. The crux of the problem is not going and having a medicine. It's figuring out how you never have to have a medicine. The reality is, let me tell you 3 things, and I know this is going to be scary. Antibiotics, which is getting randomly recommended to everybody, is killing people because drugs are getting resistant to all these antibiotics. There's a huge problem, and this is in the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to explode. Believe me, H1N1 is nothing what we just saw. People are going to die of common cold because this will be a new strain which is getting mutated, and the mutation is happening so fast that it takes now viruses 6 months to a year to mutate, and it takes over 2 years for a drug to come out of FDA and clinical trials. So now, medicines are going to become more and more ineffective. Let's agree on that. Secondly, doctors are the part of the problem. We all know that. And it's not like the problem is they are just in the last century. They have not updated themselves. When you go and show a doctor data from your device or an app, a lot of them say, no, we don't believe. In fact, doctors are now joking about patients who do Google search of their problems, and they come to us because now every patient has some idea before they talk to the doctor, and doctors actually don't like it. I don't know how many doctors are here, but that is the real data. They don't like, because they were used to a system where they should say, ye karna hai, aisa karo, and now the patients are asking a lot of questions. So we are getting in the world where doctors are not equipped to deal with this scenario. It is the same thing which is happening with our politicians also, right? They were never used to dealing with the scenario where people were asking them questions and talking back to you. So the same thing is happening with the doctors. Thirdly, all of us are going to have a tsunami of health data which we never had. Your phone is measuring your heart rate, this, that, and there will be diabetes. So I think health data will be so much that you won't know what to do with it. And you will literally, your phone will wake up and your iWatch is going to wake up and tell you that your resting heart rate was 90, and you would say, what the hell, what does it mean? Am I going to die? Is it supposed to be 90? Is it supposed to be 120? Is it supposed to be 60? And if you call your doctor, the doctor will say, what the hell, you can't be calling me every day for this. So the bottom line is that all this data, the people are not equipped to different, because if you look at the doctor-patient ratio, that's already very, very small. And the only problem is that you really need another breed of people who will start understanding that data. And that's where the idea of Goki came about. So actually Goki is a game. It's a game where, but people, by the way, who are part of Goki ecosystem are not sick or patients. We call them players. So they are playing a game. The only difference is, in this game, they are led by a coach who is a health professional, who's trained in fitness, nutrition. And what are they telling you to do? They're not telling you to do anything. They're telling you to, have more steps, get more sleep, drink more water, eat more nutritious food. And just the way we make you eat more candies in Candy Crush or make you play Angry Birds, they are using the same techniques in getting you to meet your goals. That's as simple as it is. So my point is that how can we make, everybody has, of you must have got a request of Candy Crush. how can that request be of not Candy Crush but Salad Crush? How can we make you eat more salad? So I think the concept really was that how could we apply the idea of gaming with behavior and habit psychology to a very simple problem of how do we make people change their lifestyle. So part of the goal of our business is to make sure nobody takes a doctor appointment. Sorry. And by the way, I'm also an investor in at least one of the companies. So, we want them to have some appointments, okay? But there is one question which I have for all of you. So how many of you want to live over the age of 100? Over the age of 100. If you have a choice, will you want to live over the age of 100? That's it? Well, Google CEO wants to live beyond 100. Okay, so the people who have put their hands up, here is an interesting data for you. If you can prevent yourself for the next 10 to 15 years from contracting any lifestyle issues, whether it is diabetes, blood pressure, 15 years, that's it. There is a very, very high likelihood that you will survive above 100. And this is true for everybody who has not yet contracted a lifestyle disease.
Not die from H1N1 though.
Because you will have built immune systems which is going to prevent that. So the bottom line is that over the next 15 years, the issue really is how can you build immunity and how can you reduce as much, avoid, I'm not saying you can not take antibiotics, but don't take antibiotics like candies. Take it when it is extremely important. So I'm saying if you can really manage your lifestyle for the next 15 years, there is a high probability that you can go and live above 100. I think that's really the crux of it. And I think my goal at GoKeys and what we have figured out, we now, by the way, have close to 10,000 users in India where people thought nobody's going to get a service like this. We give away the hardware for free. Our model is very disruptive. We say hardware is hardware is free, or you can use any hardware you want, or you can use your app. What is value is the coaching, the advice you get from a coach, and our coaches are trained, certified, and they're engaging with you on a daily basis. We just started trialing our consumer experience in the US. We will be launching, I think, later this year in the US. And the idea is that as we scale this system, we will be creating a global network of lifestyle and health. And last thing, which is most important in this, is the entire element of karma. So all this happens with you supporting causes for charity and so on. So I think it's crazy. If you want to live 100 years, this is what you need to get. So, and we're going to have some people answer some questions and with that.
Vishal, one tip and one growth challenge.
One tip is don't waste your time selling your idea to a doctor. Doctors, they are the incumbent. It's like when Elon Musk had to build SpaceX. He had to get some people from NASA, but the NASA people never believed it was possible. So the problem is that they are in the system, and you require disruptors to come from outside the system. There are some smart doctors, and Dr. Nene, who's part of our team. But largely, if you go to the masses where he went, doctors don't understand this. And don't get discouraged. Actually, more than that, my problem is you go and discuss your idea with the doctor, and they say, "Kya faltu idea?" So, don't get discouraged. Because they don't get this. The second thing, which is actually more important, is spend more time with your consumers. So right now, people who are discussing heart disease or diabetes, how many times have they actually went and seen how does a diabetes patient really deal with this situation? So a lot of times, so the learning actually is sitting with the patients, or with the opportunity is so much in India, it's crazy, worldwide. But the opportunity will only come if you go and spend a month in the hospital. Believe me, you spend a month in the hospital, every day you will find a new business idea what you can do. There are so many problems, so many challenges, which all are waiting to be saved. So that's really where you need to go for product validation and not going to conferences like this and hearing us. That's where.
Not in the ambulance.
Thanks, Vishal.
Anyway, that's where you need to be where.
You need not go in the ambulance to the hospital. Sorry, being a doctor, I need to say that. It is nice ideas, but not be on that bed, which is very scary.
Okay, not in that.
Vishal, over to you.
Right, so I have probably a little different point of view.
He's the doctor's man.
Hey, first of all, I need to apologize. I was about 15 minutes late. Locating the right interviews was a little bit of a challenge on Google Maps, so apologies to all of you guys if you had to wait because of me. So yeah, so Practo started off, or rather Practo is I think one of the largest doctor discovery engines in Asia. We do about 4 million searches where patients are trying to find the right doctors, or the ones that Vishal recommends, are the ones that you can find on Practo.
You recommend doctors?
Like Nene, right? The other thing that we also do is we have a practice management software that doctors use. So one of the things that happened to me a few years back, actually we started in 2008, was my father was diagnosed with a knee operation surgery, and I was trying to get second opinion from a doctor in the US. I found it really difficult to get my dad's paper-based records to the doctor in the US. You have to literally take a camera, take photographs, and have to do your Gmail, download. It was very, very laborious process. So I walk up to this doctor of mine and say, "Hey doc, can you please give me an email copy of it? Gmail is very popular. I'm sure it's easy." He looked at me and he said, "What? Many patients have asked for this. I wish I could do it, but what's stopping me is my software doesn't have an email button." And I said, "Wow, I'm a computer science grad. I was in my 3rd year then." I said, "This is the 3 lines of code." 3 lines of code, and that's preventing such a basic patient experience, or rather a patient need. It was really surprising to me. And I took a look at the software. I understood why are doctors actually struggling. The doctors are really struggling because they don't have really good technology at their hand. Right? Nobody has really invested in time and energy to build technology that doctors can use to get closer to patients. Or doctors can use technology to understand our needs and can serve us better. So that's where we built Practo. So Practo's single goal is to create that one single health account where all your health data can be on. Right, be it from Goki or be it from any other place, all your health data can be in this one single place, so that the next time you need to send a record off to a second opinion, it's just a one click away from your mobile app. So what we did was we built this Practo Ray as a software that worked with doctors to digitalize their practice. It ensured that doctors no longer write on paper, but they use a digital copy of it. Since they store a digital copy of that data, you can all access it from your mobile app. And the best part is if you go to multiple centers, from all those centers, you can access one single app for free. And so that was the power of what we are building as a platform. So on the back end, we have thousands of doctors, tens of thousands of doctors using this platform where they are storing prescriptions, X-rays, and multiple other healthcare data. And on the other side, we have a search engine where consumers like us go and find doctors and book appointments with them, and they can also manage your health records at one place, at one single place. So that's the vision with which we started Practo. Just to solve the problem that enabling doctors with good technology, so that we as consumers can find doctors or health services, fitness services that that easily, to book appointments with them or interact with them or communicate with them easily, and 3, manage that data also easily. So these are the 3 things that we cover under Practo. And as of now, we are in 35 cities in India. We're doing very well in India. We're also in Singapore and in Philippines. We're doing very well. We're number 1 in those countries as well. We're launching in 7 more countries, in Indonesia, in Brazil. So now that this model is validated to some degree in India and Singapore and Philippines, we're launching in 7 more countries. So in short, this is what we have been able to accomplish in 7 years. Took us some time, but yeah, this is where we are so far.
It's a great story. One question for you, and of course, congratulations on the finding a great investor partner. If you can share what the learning has been on choosing a financial equity partner in this journey.
Yeah, I've been around since 2008, so seen the times when there were no Flipkarts and Redbuses around, and to now when the ecosystem is so mature, and really happy. I came down from Bangalore because when they said that there's going to be a healthcare entrepreneurs summit, I was like, wow. 7 years, not too many of these happened, by the way. So I was very excited, and that's why I'm here. Coming to the question that he asked, I think what's very important as an entrepreneur is to never compromise on your vision. Right? When I used to get into a room and talk about the same vision 7 years back, 99.99% of the people would laugh at it. Right? And say, okay, nuts.
They didn't kick you though.
They didn't kick me, they laughed at me. Maybe I looked a little bigger. The second thing was, that so every year the number of people who laughed, kept reducing. So what I'm trying to put across is, don't compromise on your vision. Right? It's very important that you don't compromise on your vision. Don't change your vision because somebody else doesn't believe in it. So financial investors unfortunately can influence you. You might get motivated and demotivated by them. So for example, we went in very confidently and said, this is the vision, we're not going to change this. Either you change your opinion about this, or we don't need to work together. That's it. So yes, we eliminated a lot of investors that way. We said, like for example, we said our vision is to be a global company. We are going to do multiple countries. Many of them were not for it. And we said, fair enough, you're great, we are great. We can still stay friends, or we can stay connected. So it's very important not to compromise. Okay, there will be people who laugh at you. There will be people saying, that this is ridiculous. This is never going to be possible. Don't listen to them. In fact, if more people laugh at you, I think you're on the right track. Okay, if less people laugh at you, that means you're doing something which is very common. Okay, so I would definitely encourage you guys to make sure that you don't compromise your vision and choose your investors who believe completely in your vision. So we were happy that both the investors we have on board are 100% aligned to what we want and enable us to get there.
Thanks, Shashank. If you'll permit, I'll just take a 2-minute diversion. We've got Deep Uthas, who's on the global board of TIE, and he's actually leaving. And I thought I'll have him speak for a couple of minutes on TIE's vision because we have so many entrepreneurs here. And Pradeep has been my mentor as well, so he got me to TIE. Pradeep, if you can just come over before you leave and just share TIE's vision and what's in it for all of these people.
I'm really sorry. I didn't know I was supposed to say things. I just said I'm going, so he said, no, please. Don't go anywhere. This is really. I was just listening to your stories, and it's just kind of again validates even globally. Healthcare as an industry is a global phenomenon. It's the way the world population is aging and the issues of the modern life, and it's in some ways you are at a threshold of major breakthroughs, and at the same time the whole profession is serving a very, very important need of the society, just like education. So I would say if I were to pick two professions which really could contributing the most to humanity, I would say healthcare and education with the youth coming. And I'm really glad to see that TIE Mumbai, which is very close to me, I've been with it for a long time, that has taken up this forum, and all of you are here. Again, thanks, Amit, for leading this for us. Globally, again, just to give you an idea, globally, TIE, we've got over close to 60 chapters in different parts of the world, and it's a movement which we're 20-year-old, but now again we seem to see a big surge that's happening for entrepreneurs everywhere in the world. So very exciting times. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks, Pradeep. So, Shashank, I know Varun is also here and he's come all the way from Bangalore. Is that right? Varun, can you just stand up and get yourself to the audience?
He's what happens. So I talk, he works. So yeah, he's Varun is part of our marketing team. He stepped out for some work.
Shantanu, without further ado, over to you.
Sure. So this is like the funniest and the craziest discussion I've been. So there's this gentleman from Harvard, 20 years experience, says that forget about getting diagnostic checkup done. I'll not even let you fall sick or get any test done. I'll save you before you even have a tendency of falling sick. Then there's Vishal, who's my oldest investor. He says that he will stop people from taking appointments from doctors. Thank you, Vishal. And then Practo.
Because some people will.
Yeah, some people will.
Which you will let.
Yeah, but still, how many, right? How many would you need? And then Practo, they kind of, I wouldn't say kind of pivoted, but kind of started focusing more on patients last 2 years, I would say, and then raised some insane amount of funding last couple of years. So yeah, and then comes Doxygist somewhere after 4 people. So this is funny, but yeah. So before I begin talking about Doxygist and Ziffy, now we are Ziffy, by the way. let me ask you all a question, right? So, imagine you're like feeling really, really down, you're sick, suffering from some disease, you know. So people are lazy, right? They will fall sick, so you can't help it. I mean, to a certain extent you can, but people like me will at some point in time fall sick. So, if and when, and it happens to almost everybody, maybe once or twice a year, that you end up not feeling good, feeling sick. May I ask, what is the first feeling that you get? What is that you really think about? Anybody? It's a very good question. Sorry? Something is not right.
Home cooked food.
Home cooked food, yeah. So delivery startups, yeah. Go to a doctor, yeah. You're a doctor, right? Any other things that are first feeling?
Why did I fall sick?
Why did I fall sick? And that's again another way of thinking. Yeah.
I think more of what I think is, I wish I didn't.
You wish yeah. That's again. But I would say, you know, the first feeling, at least for me, would be the feeling of pain, right? You know, you don't feel good about it. You feel some kind of pain, physical, emotional, mental. One part of the pain obviously is because you've fallen sick. The other part is thinking that, shit, I have to now go and meet a doctor. Right? So that is also a overbearing feeling that now I need to meet a doctor. Yeah, that's not a very convenient or a happy feeling to have. And then when we thought about it, we thought, why? You know, it's very ironical that, you know, doctors and these people are trained to cure you. They are here to help you at the first place. But when you think about them, it's, you know, something which is not very easy. You know, it's a very difficult feeling to kind of think, yeah, now I have to go to a clinic or a hospital, take an appointment, and then meet a doctor. It's inconvenient, it's painful. And, you know, then we thought that, you know, what is really stopping people from, you know, really readily, you know, thinking positive about getting fit, thinking positive about meeting a doctor. You know, that should not be such a painful feeling. So, you know, that's when, you know, kind of the moment of whatever you call it happened, that I think what we have to build is something which makes people feel comfortable approaching a doctor at the first hand. They should not feel that feeling of misery or difficult situation when you have to approach or meet a doctor. It should be seriously very, very simple and easy. That's the thought from which Toxigist started. It was a long time ago. The startup scene wasn't so hot as it is now, and that's like Shashank mentioned. You know, this is great. Back when we started, you started I think a couple of years before us. But then even in our period, those time investors were not like throwing away. So when I first met Vishal in one of the business plan competitions, we met continuously for about 1.5 years, and then he actually, you know, got interested and then he invested. So that cycle of initial matchmaking was 1.5 years long. But then now things have changed. Anyway, so when we started, we thought that basic problem that exists is of making people find good doctors, making people get trustworthy opinions about physicians, about hospitals, and then making it really simple for one to really meet and get a treatment done. So that's how things started. So we kind of approached it from a patient's point of view, that if ever you fall sick, it should be simple for you to get fit. So we started building out from there, and you know, when Vishal and Sanjay invested in us, we started expanding our operations. We were earlier in Hyderabad, then we expanded to Bangalore, and then we went about to a couple of other cities. So after, you know, spending a couple of years in the market, we realized that it is not just, you know, doctors that people are looking for. This pain exists across the entire healthcare spectrum. So it's not just one booking that you make and meet a doctor and you get well, right? You have to get other things done. You have to get a blood checkup done. You have to get some tests done. You have to go to a hospital. In some cases, you also have to get surgery done. There's so many things that happen when you end up meeting a doctor. And from a consumer's point of view, it was evident that, and doctor is something that, you know, most of the people end up meeting once or twice a year perhaps. Versus, let's say, a health checkup or say a fitness regime. These things are more regular in nature, which imagining that you guys are all using mobiles now to as a primary device of your personal usage, right? You don't really use a desktop anymore. Laptops are also a passage now mobile that you end up using for most of your personal needs. It makes more sense for us to provide something that is not just useful for you maybe once or twice a year, something that can help you get better or take care of most of your wellness needs. And that's when we started thinking of what else can we build around getting doctors appointments. We started with diagnostics and pathology checkup. So we started a service through which you can book a test online. Somebody could come at your home, pick up the sample, and the reports could be given to you online. In a very simplified manner, you can actually understand the results without having to really again go to a doctor and see what does it mean, right? My cholesterol is 198, what does it mean? My LDL is low, HDL high, what does it mean? These are all complicated things. We thought of simplifying that angle as well. And that's how the evolution of Doxygen happened, that we realized that it's not just one thing, it is multiple things that people need in their entire duration of existence. And hence we thought let's now solve the bigger problem that lies there for most of us, which is taking care of all your wellness needs, taking care of your doctors, pathology, fitness, and why not just more day-to-day things like getting a physiotherapist or getting a stylist appointment. Why not? Getting a good massage done once in a while. Why can't we end up helping people in finding those things and making it simple to avail those services? Other big factor we realize is people still believe on references. You cannot take out that angle from the picture. It is very important. And hence, we thought, the user reviews which are verified, the user reviews and ratings which are verified are the core part of the entire solution. We should, kind of help people to get more reviews and ratings around these services. So the pillar that we have is obviously search becomes very big. That how can you search a good fitness or a healthcare or a wellness provider? How can you figure out if he's the right person, professional for your need? And people have various needs. And how can you easily avail those services? So when we kind of figured this part out, we said that Doxygist now has to evolve. It has a higher mission, a bigger aim. And we said let's just make it simple. Let's call ourselves Ziffy. Ziffy comes from the word jiffy, which means fraction of a second. So you can find and get anything within a fraction of a second. That's what Ziffy does. So in our phase of evolution, we've expanded across verticals. Now you can find anybody from a doctor to a physiotherapist to a dentist to a masseuse or a stylist who can take care of your wellness or lifestyle needs and book appointments then and there. It makes a lot of sense and hence people use it. That's why we are alive so far. Vishal is the most active user. The fitness piece that we have where you can actually check your reports. He was saying about, he gets a blood test done every month and he gets it done through, Ziffy. And all the reports are updated online.
I can literally tell you right now what is my LDL level. In the last 15 days, what is my LDL levels, what are my HDL levels. Every parameter of my body is tracked every month. And the only thing which I do is I live a low-key lifestyle. I don't have any medicine or any of that.
So it's a good use case, right? Somebody who's so opposed to doctors also is our customer, right? So somebody.
I'm not opposed to doctors, I'm just saying they don't understand.
You're just more fit, so you don't need a doctor in that way.
So Dr. one tip and one challenge.
Yeah. The challenge across the board is the same, right? Doctors, when we started the business, were in some other century. They belong to some other, universe. Not getting kicked out, but yeah, we had situations when we were escorted out of a hospital because we were just too forceful in getting things done. So what we realized is when we started the business, we said we should actually provide something very simple for also doctors to manage their appointments, which what Practo started doing before us. And we realized that these guys are just, even if you, and these guys have enough money to spend upon IT services and solutions. It's just that they don't have enough motivation to use them properly. So most of the hospitals or even large clinics have some kind of a practice management or a hospital management system. They use it for inventory, they use it for billing. They don't use it for appointments, at least managing appointments. I'll show some part of it when Shashank would agree that one of the features that people would love about Practo is that sending reminders or making good use of it to be in touch with their customers. So I think unless you are actually giving them more business or a hook where they can actually use the service to find and cultivate loyalty around customers or some kind of business generation, these providers still are not very enthusiastic about using the IT system to manage their
They also absolutely hated when they saw people rating them and giving reviews, which was not so good for a lot of doctors. So I think they were not used to an environment where customers were talking back to them. You are today rating restaurants and hotels, but what about doctors? So I think that was
absolutely. So rating and review mechanism was something that on almost daily basis you would get hate calls from doctors that, hey, a patient has rated me 2-star. You make sure that you take down the rating or I'm off the system. So these things are very common, and you have to be strong and say, no, the rating is going to be there. Although we verify the rating and everything in all the ways possible, but it is verified, it's going to stay. And I think that makes the system very strong from a customer point of view. That these are the things through which customer can actually demand a good service from doctors. So I think that has been one of the very strong things that we've learned, that using Ziffy or Doxygist in its earlier avatar, we've been able to provide good services because doctors take things seriously when they are being talked about on the internet. And it's not just any portal. And doctors also have a place where they can actually see what kind of experiences people are getting from them. And they can actually control and perhaps improve upon what they do. In terms of advice, so I think when I started talking at the start, we saw people getting out businesses from all the sides. I think what you need to do is just stay there and say that I'm not going to quit. If you get a feeling that boss मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, तो फिर आप actually उसमें उतरो मत. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really grueling. It's going to take you endless number of investor meets to get an investor, which Practo has been able to find. And even their experience, 99.9% used to laugh at you, right? Initially.
Just general people. When you talk about your vision to people.
Yeah, it's difficult to get across to people when you start up. So I think that being said, there are enough people. Once you prove your idea, they will back you, they'll support you. We've been fortunate to have great investors like Vishal, Sanjay, and a few others. But I think the first point that you need to do is validate what you're trying to do. I think at this age and time, we feel, at least I feel that I'm one of the older generations of entrepreneurs, even now when we've been running this thing for the last 5 years. In the last couple of years, things have drastically changed. Investments happen very fast, which is good. But I think it also kind of takes away that factor where you get some time to validate what you're trying to build. And if the fundamental is not really in place, I think one of the saying is, it's more important to do the right thing than putting a lot of effort. So I think what you need to figure out is if you can validate things that you're trying to do and just be there, don't quit. I think these are the two things that we believe strongly. Do the right thing and don't quit. I think that has been the mantra that we've been able to sustain so long, and I'm sure there's a long way to go for.
Thanks, Shashank.
Hi. I think, first of all, we have not launched our business yet. But we have been researching since 3 years. And we are a product startup in a very difficult space, diabetes. This was like, the story started about in 2011 when I was an entrepreneur in Bangalore. And one fine day I got a call from my father. My father is living with type 2 diabetes. He's not suffering, but he's living with type 2 diabetes since 25 years. And my mother is also a type 2 diabetic. And he said that, hey, have you seen my file which contains all the blood glucose readings and the prescriptions? And I said, Dad, I'm in Bangalore, you're in Mumbai, how would I see your file? And he was very, very tense. And I said, what's the matter? He said that, the small clinic I go to, the diabetes clinic, they have misplaced my file. And basically all the prescriptions, all the drugs, all the blood glucose readings over the 5 years, which he used to write on a piece of paper and file them. He was a good patient. And it's all gone. So basically I have to undergo all this tests because my doctor is very busy. He sees many patients during the day, and I don't know what medicines are, what combinations of medicines, and I was taking insulin as well. It's all gone, and so I have to do the tests all together. And when I hung up, I was like, I felt a real, this kind of a sinking feeling because I'm a bachelor in pharmacy, and I don't know what my father, what drugs he was taking or what medications he was taking, etc. And I couldn't help him actually. And after about a month or something, I actually went to Mumbai, and then I knew about this open source platform called Arduino, and just like about 6 months ago, I had learned coding, and in C. I said, let's just try and tinker on something like that, because everybody was using phones, and I thought, let's just try and tinker. And with me and my other co-founder, we were successful in just taking the reading from one medical device, which is a glucometer, and transmitting it very raw format on an Android phone. My aim then was just to help like 346 million people like my father in managing their diabetes much better, without knowing anything about the business specifics, without knowing anything about the hardware or the business plan or something like that. And then somehow, the news got in media, and I was hooked. Because the media started glorifying our small thing, and and we started winning competitions, and somehow we thought that, wow, this is really amazing. Probably this might be like a really amazing business idea. And India is the diabetic capital, second diabetic capital in the world, so let's start doing it. I bounced it, I was very fortunate enough, I just bounced it to one investor, first investor, and he invested. And that was really amazing from the US. And then we raised another some amount from an accelerator, and then the real tough challenge started. This was like about 2 years ago, and I went to the valley there in Silicon Valley, and I said that we have got this thing, etc. And then everybody started throwing buzzwords like predictive analysis at us, and big data, etc. and stuff like that, and nobody invested. Nobody invested. We were just like a hardware device which was transmitting the readings from a glucometer into a smartphone. That's it. And we were, in our business, in our amazing 10-point investor presentation, we were saying that we are only focusing on customers. And we have a huge competitor in the US, and he had heard about us. And I messaged him on LinkedIn, and he said that he just replied to me in 1 minute. They had raised about 12 million then. And he said that let's meet in a cafe in Palo Alto. And I met him. He was a Stanford guy. We are like completely, and he was like about 50-year-old guy. And then he said that you guys are doing some amazing things, but do you know that how difficult this entire thing is all about? And I thought that he's just being cocky, and let me just say that we are completely ready for it. And then he asked me one simple question, that who are your customers? And I told that people living with diabetes. He gave a pat on my back and said, all the best. Asked for the check and he left. And I was like, seriously? Like, it was, I don't know what happened. I came back to India, we started digging up on them, and then we realized that they are having a really, really difficult time raising follow-on investment. Because after raising about that kind of money, they had only sold 2,000 of their devices. I'll tell you. And then suddenly Samsung invested in them a huge amount. And then we came to know that they are focusing on B2B now. Which means they are giving the data to the doctors. Then we came to know that our primary focus should not be people with diabetes. Because people with diabetes or any other chronic disorder for that matter don't want to take care of themselves. We ran a pilot. Oh, India is hopeless. Yeah. And then luckily, again, every doctor was laughing at us, and investors in India, they were like, "Tum log ek kaam karo. Have you heard of Vishal Gondal? You should make like a watch, which should have blood glucose meter. Usme blood pressure sensor bhi dalo, and then you should beat Vishal Gondal." And we were like, "Okay, thanks." And then, so we said that it's of no use. We will not talk to investors from India at all. And
I can invest in you so that you don't do this.
And then, if you realize, when we started off, we didn't have clear focus on what because this entire ecosystem is growing completely, and we were evolving our business, as we were, because we were learning from our peers in the US and the UK and stuff. And then, luckily, University College London in UK, they helped us with accessibility testing with actual type 1 diabetes patients, and that gave us a crazy insight. But then again, our money was completely dry last year, completely dry, like zero, nothing. And investors were like, "We want traction," and I'm like, "How will we show traction without having money?" And we didn't have any. We have 80 employees, and we needed them to pay. It was a very difficult situation. I said everything. We got a loan. We got a loan from the US at a very amazing rate, and we wanted to see that we were very crystal clear that B2C is not the way to go. But we said that let's just do it because we want to just market it, because we want other people, that is hospitals, clinicians, researchers, to know that there's something like this existing. And we launched a crowdfunding campaign, and we just launched it 60 days ago, and we got pre-orders from 32 countries in 60 days worth $35,000. And now organizations from the US, organizations from Europe, everybody wants the data, and which means this. And that was really a great moment for us, because we know that now it is what we want to do. We want to focus on B2B. But another challenge came up, was regulatory compliances. And we wanted to do many things at the same time, but then we came to know that our device is MDD, and we need to file for FDA in the US if you want, and that would cost about anything between $50,000 to $75,000, and maybe 6 months to 1 year, maybe. And it will take time. And we were like, okay, we are killed. We just completely killed, because the most number of orders and our market is the US primarily, not India. And then suddenly, because all these connected devices are the thing, our regulatory expert in the US, she said that there's some good news that your device and system is 510K exempt. So we don't require FDA. and we've already filed for a CE, and now we are just having the same quality compliance system to file in the US. And as we speak, our FDA consultant is filing, and we are talking with we are having some great conversations with investors, and right now we are going into the manufacturing phase because we've got about 800 orders for the devices. But the thing is that I just want to sum it up is that we are not a hardware startup. We are a data startup. The hardware is just a piece of one piece of equation which we didn't knew when we started off, and we wasted 3 years researching on the hardware in-house. But that has given us some edge, but we've learned it the hard way right now, and many hospitals across US as well as in Europe now want the data, and now we know that we are not a B2C startup, but we are a B2B startup.
That's a fantastic story. I must tell you all that over the last few sessions we've not had a better group than this, sharing the collective experience. Before I open it to questions, I'm actually honored to welcome Dr. Velu, who's been an evangelist for DIE, one of the most senior healthcare entrepreneurs in the country, and changed the model for diagnostics testing in India. So Dr. Velu, please join the group. Please join the group, and it would be great if even you can participate in some of the questions, given your long years of experience as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, my color of my hair and beard says I'm a different decade man, and I got a feeling that I'm sitting inside a coffee cafe day because the youth and the age reminded me of that. I'll be more than happy to tell or answer if there are questions which could be a bit different from these youngster stories.
Dr. 2 minutes on ThyroKare, please.
I think ThyroKare is not too old a company compared to GM Motors, and it is certainly not a young company. You see Practo, Flipkart, and Snapdeal. So it's a company which started in 1996 with an investment of 200,000, which was my provident fund after working for 15 years in a government as a gazetted officer in Baba Atomic Research Center. Did not know the spelling of entrepreneur. Did not know anything other than one valley, that is Kashmir Valley. And I put in all my money there, and my wife asked me a question: if you fail, what you will do? This is a question must keep in your mind. I didn't discuss with her, she started the discussion. Because I took a decision not to discuss. And if you discuss, you can't decide, and if you decide, there is no need to take a decision. So my wife asked this, and I told her, "Saath jiyenge, saath marenge." I came to Mumbai with nothing in hand. So when I go back, might have not lost anything. So in Ooty, there are plenty of residential schools. I'm a PhD. I can become a principal, and you will be my stenotypist. We'll look at that valley and live for the rest of the life. So this is how I took probably a risk, and I started this business. And I must tell you, those days it was lucky, luxury, no competition. No one knew what to do, and no one knew what they were doing. And the industry had a wonderful comfort of prices, rates. As much as when Captain Gopinath came, Jet Airways and Indian Airlines were caught in wrong foot. and all of them came down to what you call as so-called economic facts. So was MTNL. 2 minutes, if you talk from here to Delhi, it was 120 rupees. And today it is 1 rupee 25 paisa all the 3 minutes to call Delhi. Similarly was in diagnostics. There was enough of room to play, and they played. And literally speaking, my game was that 6 sixes of Yuvraj, which he can't repeat now, and that 215 of Chris Gale, which also I don't think that easy to repeat. So I had a comfortable time. I worked on B2B. In this space you have 2 options. In any space you have 2 options. You can play a value game or you can play a volume game. If you play a value game, you cannot get volume, and if you do the other way, you can't get the value customer, but you will get a lot of value. Have you understood? You won't get the value customer, it will get a lot of value. I could see somewhere a pyramid when I started the business. The pyramid I always make into 10 slices, and nobody can attend to more than 3 slices. 1 slice where you are focused, 1 slightly above, 1 slightly below. So you cannot cater to rich and poor, and I was not keen to cater to the rich. And I am from a poor family, and I felt I must make diagnostic tests affordable. I can today talk any philosophy. It sounds very good because I've been successful. And I never looked for money. I never had a problem of money. I don't know why. I had a comfort of always a cash in the balance sheet. Mind you, every investor chases you only when there is a cash in the balance sheet. If you have no money, you will chase and they will run. And if you don't want to go, they will knock the door and they will not allow you to even go out without discussing with them. This is the scenario there. Having said that, come a long way from nowhere competition. Today, all those who talked about me that time as अरे इस रेट में टेस्ट कर सकते क्या था बक करता है. Today I am telling it to my competitors because all of them are doing even at a 70% cost, 60% of my cost. The reason is healthcare has got wonderful valuation. If you have a company which is having a turnover of X crores, you get 10X crores value. To that extent, this industry has a highest level of valuation. So many are into it. Many people are putting funds in it. Many are assuming an entrepreneur role in it. But happy news is the market is growing, rapidly growing. Consumers are entering in. Entry levels for customer also is coming down. Everyone is competing. It's a great tomorrow. I am diluted by 35% or 36%, and all the money is kept in the fixed deposit. Thank you.
So now just in terms of time, Paritosh, how much time do we have? 6:15. So we'll open it up for questions now, but one request, keep your questions short because I'd like to have as many questions to this group as possible. Do a quick introduction of who you are and no comments, just questions. One quick, crisp question.
Hi, I'm Priya. I'm in the wellness space. I manufacture health shakes, natural health shakes on the go. The brand name is Stroms.com. One question to Doc Suggest or Zifi and one to the diabetes
One
data
question,
company.
Please, one question.
Okay. How ethical is it to collect data from consumers as a consumer product and then sell the data to biggies? I mean, what is the ethics you follow there?
Collect the data from consumers and?
For you, the question was consider the wait times. That is the most important pain point to get to a doctor.
So you have one question. Which one would you answer?
I'll ask him because I don't think there is a solution yet because you have to wait. Higher the qualification of the doctor, bigger the wait times. But then I was worried about the ethical part as a consumer.
Obviously, there will be a signed consent.
Signed consent. If
Signed
I
consent.
buy Goki and I use it as a fitness band, is there anything to stop you from passing on all my fitness data?
In our case, we are very clear that the data is yours, and we are not in the business. We charge you for this. This is not a free product. Right? The data is yours, and we are not in the business selling the data to anyone. Of course, your data will go to your coach, who's going to tell you what to do and advise you on top of that. We are not in the business of selling data.
But in your case, you have a.
So we are also not in the business of selling data. So the thing is that now what we have understood is that the concept of SMBG, that is self-monitoring of blood glucose, because of the patient adherence part, which is very, very difficult. You have to bring the doctor into the loop so that you close the loop. That is, the patient takes the data and then afterwards submits it to the doctor, and then the doctor or the nurse or the caretaker comes back to the patient with the necessary the next steps. So the doctor will be telling the patient that use this, and this will be giving us the data, and then we will be taking the next steps.
Thanks. Now, as we have the doctor asking the question, so all of you guys need to be here.
I'm Ruchita Arathya. I'm a consultant neurologist and completed my paralytic stroke from Calgary, Canada. Came back 3 years and very frustrated. Nobody knows what strokes are. So just started a startup called BrainClick. My question to all of you, how do you break this attitude of the doctors? I have been facing the same problem that you have been facing, and being on the chair for them, I'm open, but most doctors are not open to any of the things that you said. What can we do for it? What is it that you think can be done? And I'm ready, I'm up in the game.
In our case, what really made the difference was you show them that their customers are listening and they are actually taking it seriously. If you can show them that a customer or a patient who visits this doctor actually comes on the reviews and ratings seriously, or even rates or reviews there, I think that makes the shift in terms of their perception.
Anyone else has a Shweta, the answer to your question comes from what I learned from Dr. Velimuri once I met him. He said, if you produce something that helps the doctor, by all means they will come and use it. You just have to make sure that the information that you're giving them tallies with what they are thinking also. And that comes with natural use of the information and bringing as many people into the whole system as possible.
I have a different answer. Like how you have counselors and a group of followers, in medical community also, one doctor leads, a dozen doctors follow. Every weekend they will get together. They will discuss what you took to them. So what you need to do is, find out who is the counselor and call a get together, not very costly. They will buy and they are now listening. Until that time they are not listening. Making them to listen is a big challenge, and if you have achieved it, they are sold it.
Okay, so I had one point to make there. So I have, I think I've met about 1,000, 2,000 doctors so far personally, and over our journey, I think we have touched, close to about 200,000 doctors across India. So there are 200,000 doctors in India and in other countries that we have touched. And there's only one thing that we use as a DNA, and I'm happy to share that. And it has been that, what we feel that doctors are a different breed of people, I don't very honestly agree with that. I think that, as very similar to all of us, they are motivated with the same things we are motivated by. They want excellence in their expertise, they want excellence in the way they do their business. So the key to all of us, what do all of us want? We want more customers, right? We want to serve as many people as we want. So what we do is, in all our products, we try to position it in a way in which he understands that even if you take a few minutes to enter a prescription, it is in a way going to get you more patients. Right? And I think any human being wants to serve more people, and doctors also want to serve more people. So that's the way we have broken the mentality of doctors, or rather, we have understood the mentality of doctors and positioned the different aspects of our company and our products to make sure that they understand that, hey, by doing this, I'm going to win, I'm going to succeed. I think that's been one of the things.
But one thing that we noticed, one thing that we also noticed in this, I think there's a fundamental, assumption there that you're making, that they want more patients. They want more dollars per patient, more money per patient. They don't want to necessarily see more patients. And just a statement that I
I have a little comment there, because it's very very important because when we went to Mumbai in last, I think 6 months, we have started Brain Click, where we can find all the brain-related information. Being a neurologist, everybody said, we don't want patients. Please stop the patients to us. Can you do something for that? And precisely, and we are taken aback, you know.
So just to kind of give you an interesting take on this, so we don't go and sell to doctors or hospitals. We are directly working with users, you know. In fact, one of the best user segment we are selling Boki is doctors themselves because they are the most stressed right now. So, and in fact, pharma companies are now working with us and giving this as gifts to doctors. So the interesting part really is that doctors are also having the same lifestyle issues and doctors are also falling sick, and maybe we should have a special segment for doctors to get appointed with other doctors. So that might be a...
Dr. Shweta, I'd love to hear your experience in the next forum. Lady over there.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Parikh. I represent the director of a company, H3RMT. We are a remote patient monitoring business. We have launched ourselves and served about 30,000 people, benefited 30,000 people and already saved thousands of lives. 220 locations in India, and now we have gone to Africa. I agree with what Shrikant has to say with everything. We do a lot more than diabetes, obviously. We have started journey in 2002. Now, in short, my question to you was, you said you came, you didn't need FDA approval, and what was the reason for that? Because you were not in hardware, or you have prepared a hardware device which is made here, or you are using a hardware device which is already having a FDA approval.
So the thing is that now actually if Diabito fails, I can actually become a regulatory expert. Because I filed the entire technical documentation for CE myself. So not going into the more details, we are classified as a class 1A device. Because what we are doing is that there is no intrusive thing, or also we are not a CDSS system as well.
You are not a?
We are not a clinical decision support system, so we are not giving any suggestions based upon the clinical data. And so what we are doing is that we are just transferring the data from one medical device into another medical device, which is a smartphone. According to FDA, even your smartphone is a medical device. So what we need to do is that we need to have a great QMS, which is a quality management system, which is equivalent to ISO 13485. So what we do is just telling them that, in case if there's a data loss or if there's a damage whatsoever, how will we actually prevent that? So that, there's no any adverse event. That's all it is.
Yeah, folks, the angel in Vishal has awakened, and he now has two bands which he'll give away for the good questions that you will ask. So please try and ask some good questions now.
Not just to me, to anyone.
But it's all to you now, Vishal.
This is a question to Shashank. So you have talked of locate, book, app, appointments and data storage. Basically the flow which I would say is the core of the company. So correct me if I'm wrong. So my understanding is basically that most of the doctors are also affiliated to various hospitals. And hospitals today, the HMSs would be in whatever state. There is no uniformity. So are you also looking at integrating Rectoray with HMSs, or in fact having a hospital focus there, because either doctor is running one thing or he is basically affiliated with several hospitals. So what is your take on that? Like, how do you see that market evolving?
So it's a great question. So we see ourselves as a platform. So we are open to integration with many companies. So in fact we have integrated with HMS systems. There's a system, very popular system in India called Insta Health, Insta Solutions, and we are integrated their systems. Any hospital which is using Insta, the patients will get the same experience that they would get if they're using our software. Similarly, we have multiple other HMS software providers who have come to us and said, hey, can we integrate so that the data can reach the consumers, and people can even book appointments with doctors in hospitals as well. So we have integrated with a bunch of hospital management systems, making hospitals also inside, available on our platform.
Can you follow up? Do you have follow up later on? So there are a lot of questions actually. Sorry about that.
Hi,
I'm Nishan, and I'm a design specialist in Godrej's Innovation Center, and I'm also trying to understand the emerging startup ecosystem in healthcare space. My question is to you. Not recently, maybe 1 year ago, 23andMe, their service, predictive service, risk assessment was called back because of FDA reservations. So with predictive data analysis, there is always this problem of certainty, like how accurate are you, like 90%, 95%, whatever. So if I get, because of your prediction, I told that I have a high risk of heart disease, and that changes my perspective on life, And what if it was not true? Or what about that 5%? I could have been much more happier living my life the way I want. So how do you see that?
So, you only know part of the story. Did you follow 23andMe that the FDA has removed some of the restrictions that they had put on 23andMe? You can go back to their website now and see that. The reason was very simple. 23andMe was interacting directly with the subject. Okay, what FDA said, that you need to go to a doctor, let the doctor give whatever they wanted to give. Later on, they pulled back on that because they said, it is not so much that they are giving suggestions, they are basically pointing out what are the issues and risks with you. What that person does with that information is that person's business. So that's why that thing is, has been revoked partly, okay? Now the answer to your other part of your question is, when we do this analysis and everything, we are looking for people who have used this evidence-based science and given a solution, given us feedback that they have 94%, 95% accuracy is what these, for example, Framingham studies or diabetes risk score studies, all these things have actually come up with people using it over the years and telling us what the feedback is. So we take only the ones that have already given us enough. And if we keep on with the data, we will have enough information that we will be able to pass on even more accurate, even more.
I think so for Asians it's needed because it's all American data. So Indian data is required.
The problem really is that today astrologer can say you're going to die on this day and nobody will ask you why are you so. But when they tell you this, will say this shows this data. They have more clinical data than anybody else. But everybody goes and listens to the astrologer and saying, oh God, I'm going to die on this. Good, they take a serious.
No, let me give a different answer. There is no one on this earth who have died because of a thyroid problem. It doesn't give fever, it doesn't give pain, literally speaking, just controls the metabolism. There are certain cardiac markers, and you know what is cardiac means. So literally speaking, the next step could be death. If you do a TSH, you are 100% sure that you have a thyroid problem or not, full stop. But if you do an LP small a or an LDL, there is a very good possibility it is highly elevated, but you are very safe. So this side, something gives you 100% reliable. There is another side which are having a lot of false positive and false negative. That is why don't read the numbers as numbers. Don't read the probabilities also as a probabilities. Get it a little bit corroborated with someone who says that number means truly not a big worry. This is medical field. Just don't go by numbers.
Okay, hi, I run a medicine ordering service by the name of MedFinder. And I was actually at head office for thyroid care for a meeting, and I realized that now all the healthcare service providers, all startups are working in a very isolated fashion. There are no data or synergies that have been created that help at the end of the day the patient to get the service or get his data accessed by the doctors or healthcare providers and get proper.
Can you ask the question, sir?
So the question is, are you guys open to synergies? Are you guys working towards synergies?
So we use.
Yeah, let me tell you, everybody is in the well, in different wells. They can at the maximum become ponds. Full stop. Nothing beyond that is truly. By any chance, if my pond and your pond is nearby, let us draw a canal.
We
work with Thyrocare. Obviously, you may not commit that much. But if you get the test done through Toxgel specifically, it will be done through Thyrocare. The sample will be picked up through Thyrocare. The reports will be published on Ziffy in a very easy, readable manner, so that the entire experience becomes very comfortable. So, yeah, anyways.
But a doctor using Tracto Race will be able to see?
Absolutely. So we have, I would say, a huge crossover in terms of the number of people who are using Ziffy and Tracto. Both the services coexist.
Literally speaking, I don't think any of us have any conflicts. So when there are conflicts, then it becomes the well. Otherwise, it remains a pond.
So there's a lot of balance.
One more thought there. So see, we have about 20,000 doctors plus using a mobile app on a day-to-day basis and everyday basis. We have, I think, like I said, already 100,000 doctors using our platform, and we are open. Our APIs are open. We have integrated many of them, many of them in the healthcare ecosystem to make sure that if they need access to doctors, we are happy to be the channel through which they can reach doctors. So we are extreme. We have been open. We have been, we have been speaking to Thyrocare as well, and multiple other partners as well. So I think the Indian ecosystem is one that we want to be united and make sure that we can work together and move faster. And there's no intention to kind of create separate things in isolation. I think the Indian healthcare ecosystem will be far better if things are together in one. So we have published our open APIs as well, and happy to collaborate with anyone and everyone who wants to be collaborated with.
So I have 4 requests already, but can I see how many more questions are coming? Okay, so let's give everyone a chance. Let's ask short questions. And
yeah. Hi, my name is Tanmay and I'm aspiring entrepreneur. My question is for Shashank. It occurs to me that you have pivoted your business model multiple times. My question is that your B2B business, which is practice management. Yeah, your B2B business, which is practice management, is that your core business and your marketplace B2C model supports that? Or is it the other way around? So B2B acts as a stepping stone for your marketplace appointment point.
Right. I think pivot would be a little stronger word. What we continue to do is we focus on one aspect, we master it, and then we keep moving to multiple more. For example, our B2B business is thriving. Just last month we did as much as we did in the last quarter. So things are moving at a very, very fast pace in our B2B business. Our B2B business is doing fabulously well. Our B2C business is doing 50% growth quarter on quarter, 20% growth organic month on month. So it's doing extremely well as well. So the way we think of life is we think of life as B2B2C, right? We think that for a connected ecosystem, you need the patient, you need the doctor, and you need the data. So we are the linkage on these three aspects. And we are happy to collaborate with everyone else, who wants to move data around these three. So to answer your question, we did B2B because that was we felt that's the most crucial element without which our rest of our business model will not succeed. So we built that first, built it really strong. It's thriving, as I mentioned. And then once we had enough conviction there, then we moved on to building our marketplace, which is now thriving. And now we are similarly moving on our focus into multiple other aspects. So it's just that we're revealing it one by one. There's a much larger game plan at play. It's only that we want to build something great. So only when something reaches the thing that we feel is great, then we reveal it to the consumers. Otherwise, it's hidden within us, right?
You need to sign it indeed.
Right.
Hi, my name is Vipin Nagpal. I'm a coder by profession and I'm exploring health these days. So my question is for Shashank. Now that we are expanding in multiple countries, what kind of legal issues you face in different countries in terms of keeping the the PHI on your servers and everywhere else?
So like all of us mentioned as panelists, right? We are entrepreneurs, and for us, what matters is your health data is your health data. It has to be as safe, as secure, and as private as it possibly can be. So we respect that in any country we are in, and what we have been surprised to see that a country like Singapore, which is very highly regulated, we have the same regulations in Singapore as we have in India. So we as a company have one standard for all countries, which are compliant with all the local jurisdictions that we have been part of so far. So we keep HIPAA compliance, HL7 compliance, SNOMED, terminology management. So we have the standardized data which comes in from the US, and we have noticed that all the governments across have a pretty much similar take on what regulation in healthcare is like. So we don't see regulation as a major hurdle or even a minor hurdle for global expansion at all under any circumstances. We have been able to coexist in Singapore and in India with the same standards, so there's no real issue there.
Yeah, in my space, I am also out of India in a couple of locations. Let me tell you, there is no heaven like India. Everywhere else, for everything, you need to apply, you get it, but everything takes 2 or 3 months. Then you realize what is next step. Let me tell you, healthcare in India, unfortunately, is not controlled, but for businessmen like us, it's fortunate.
Yeah, I have a question. My name is Abhinav. I'm from Diagnostic Kits and Instruments. I'm selling those. So finance is like what petrol is for a car. So a lot of you guys have raised finance for your businesses. So what kind of returns does an investor expect? Like 20 to 25%? And how do they take it, in dividends, or they will sell their equity? You know, and how do you go ahead with it? What is your suggestion?
Yeah, Abhinav is my vendor. From him I buy reagents and do my business. But I think now I must be a vendor for you in this segment. An investor comes with an agenda of AHARA, AHARA, as high as reasonably achievable. Right? The other side, you want funds, ALARA, as low as reasonably achievable. This fight continues, and who is more desperate closes bit faster. Otherwise, there is a great negotiation. I negotiated literally for 15 months because I didn't want money. But if you want money, you can't negotiate for 15 months. It's a game. They value at a certain numbers. You don't know your value, but you think you are more than that. So this is all happening a mind game. But let me tell you, if they get somewhere between 12% and 18%, they will talk very good about you. That's all minimum it has to be delivered. But if you give more, your name they will tell in every platform. So this is the only upside of it.
As dividend, you give it as dividend?
Giving dividend, increasing the reserves and all those things are decided at the boardroom. I think our investors have been very fair. They told whatever you wish to do, you can do. For 3 years I did not declare a dividend. This year I wanted to know what do they say if I declare a dividend, and we declared and they didn't say anything. So whether it is funds are in your hand or in the company, as long as you are intelligently using that, I think they come not for dividend. I don't think private equity guys come for dividend, because dividend is the money going back to them. They are interested in entry value, exit value and a delta. And as long as you can give a delta, they are very happy about it. They don't look for a dividend. Whether you get it direct in shares or CCD is all depending upon, once again, how trust it mutually has got on the business. There is no standardization.
Yeah, hi, this is Nivedita. I am actually an odd one out here because I'm not an entrepreneur, not a doctor. As a portfolio manager for healthcare startups in CII and Ahmedabad, more here in the capacity of an investor and incubator. So my question is to Shashank. So we have recently started focusing on healthcare, and we have received a lot of applications which are very similar to what we're doing. The question is, if I as an investor were to differentiate between, say, 5 startups which come from your space, what specific criteria would I focus on to differentiate?
Wow.
Great question. So just to understand, I think it's a very broad question, it's a very smart question, but just to understand it a little better, your question is that if there are 5 companies coming from healthcare, or particularly the space in which we are,
Yeah.
which
Let's
is...
say there are 5 fractals. What makes your fractal unique?
That's me.
See, I would tell them that no, that don't worry, just contact Practo. Anyways, but to answer your question seriously, I'd rather I use it the other way around. I'll tell you what's, we have maintained a policy that sharing knowledge is as important. That's the way one can learn. So, I'll tell you what are very critical to our business. The blueprint to our business, literally. I hope our investors are not listening. But more seriously, there are 2 things that I think are very important in the business that we are, which is doctor discovery business. I think one is content. Content is very important. So if they are able to find ways in which they can get dynamic content,
So all the marketplaces are run by a very simple logic. They are run by having dynamic content. Okay, this is content that's not available on Google. So Google will rank you higher up if there is content that you have that Google does not have. And even better if that content continuously keeps changing. So there are two things here. There's dynamic content and so basically it's dynamic content and data which is not available on Google. If you have these two things, you will basically be ranked higher in Google. Simple. Forget SEO, forget everything else. This is the blueprint of making sure that your organic traffic can increase very fast. So if you can crack dynamic content and content on Google, then without any funding of any nature, you will be automatically able to get traffic to your business. That's A. So I think a smart entrepreneur who can figure out how to get dynamic content in this space will win. Dynamic content can work in some ways. A, timings of doctors, right? They keep changing. Like menu cards in a restaurant, which Zomato takes, keeps changing. Price of dishes in a restaurant keeps changing. Consultation charges of doctors keeps changing. So these are the content that keeps changing that if you have, Google will rank you a lot more better. The second thing that we value a lot, which even Shantanu also pointed out towards, was UGC content. Right? Now UGC content is user-generated content. We believe that user-generated content is what all your billion-dollar businesses are built on. Your Facebook, your Twitters, your Pinterests, everything is built on this UGC content. So it's not about you giving content, it's about user-generated content, which is honestly very smart because it's artificial intelligence, because you're making people decide what other people want. Because when you upload something on Facebook, you're doing all the thinking for Facebook that what will get me a like. Anyways, coming back, what's important is that if you're able to get UGC content, for us, what UGC content is meant is reviews, recommendations, feedback. This is things which again Google does not have, and which are UGC oriented, and which can only come from mass, and that can give you a big entry barrier. So if these two things are solved for in a smarter way than Tracto is doing, kudos to those guys, and we are happy to learn from them, or rather acquire them.
So that was the best question. You get a good because you made him tell us all his secrets. For sure.
But I'll also say the answer to that question is you didn't give the right answer. I'm sorry.
And of course, don't find out that the question is right answer.
I'll tell you what I would do if I was in your place, because you said all of them are Tractos, right? All 5 Tractos. So they are doing exactly what you already said that they should be doing, right? So the answer is you should be looking for a Shashank. If you find a Shashank, fund him.
Don't fund anybody, you have a bookkeeper. Thanks, Vishal.
Hi, so I am Shashank. Anybody interested to fund me? My name is Shashank. I run a consulting business in IT infrastructure. I have a varied background from being in HR operations, and I've always worked with startups and grown them from scratch in my last 20 years. So my question to any of you is that do you feel that technology has limitation when it comes to healthcare? I'll just give an example that I've been having cholesterol for the last 10 years, and recently when I did my test, it has been constant, like around 250 total cholesterol. So my wife told me that you've not been going to the doctor and showing the reports, you're just doing tests and keeping it in the file. So I decided to go online and see the nearest doctor available in my area. And then I put a query and got a response which came from Tracto. And thereafter, 2 times the appointments were postponed. So instead of having technology at hand, I could not meet the doctor. That was unfortunate. Then I probably feel that I don't need to go to a doctor now. I need to change my lifestyle, as Vishal feels that. So my question is.
So I think you have also answered the question. The problem in the health space is not information, not data, not technology, not knowledge. You can Google and find everything. You can get appointments. You can get any device. The problem is motivation. The problem is you getting off your ass and exercising or eating healthy or actually going to a doctor appointment on time. So the issue here is not knowledge. I think between you, your uncle, your aunt, everybody can tell you what to do after problem. In fact, people are now prescribing medicines to each other. That's the biggest problem. I mean, that's what is happening. So the challenge is, which you rightly pointed out, that how can technology motivate you to make a change?
Whether it is taking an appointment, whether it is going to a doctor, whether it is taking the data, and that's really where gaming comes in. Gaming comes in. I mean, gaming is exactly that. And by the way, he's a Goki customer, so we'll talk about it. But that's really where gaming comes in, where we have people who have been spending thousands of dollars on games like Angry Birds and Farmville and right now Clash of Clans. So if we can crack motivation, you can crack the answer.
I have a single word answer. Logistics. Where you are, where a doctor is, what is he, presuming his time is free, when you think you are free, is that ultimately the single word logistics plays a very big role today, and that has not been properly understood by people.
So we have five more minutes, 2 questions and 1 Goki band left.
Good evening, respected panelists. Hi, good evening. This is Deependra Gadkari. We are it's an idea state startup that we are working on. Making our decision. I have a question for all of you. How do you attract and retain good talent for a startup? And second, how do you...
Just one question.
Okay. How do you attract and retain talent in a startup?
So for us here, while we are funded and we've been funded multiple times, initially Vishal at angel level and then Horizon Venture Partners at Series A level. It is obviously difficult to find good talent and then retain, right? What has worked for us in this space is that when you make them feel that they're doing something important, if you can give them a piece of work and say, this is going to change the world tomorrow, and actually it does. And even if it doesn't do, you still keep them motivated to actually perform for take another shot. I think that's when the people who are working for you feel value, and then they keep on putting equal amount of effort every passing night and passing day. I think that really is the crux. Salaries and everything is something that anyways happens. It is important. It is definitely important. But I think it is the motivation of an employee by making him feel that the work that he's doing is really important. Otherwise, there's no tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. This is Renuka here. We from an online portal which is www.compressionstockings.in. It's India's first compression stocking website. For those of you who don't know, cutting it short, compression stockings are stockings worn for better blood circulation, that's a change in lifestyle, which is used during traveling, pregnancy, and many more things. India, as you said, preventive, people don't like it. But we have an online portal. Our biggest challenge is how do you market it? We don't have budgets to have a front page Times of India ad or a mirror ad. We started with,
So I use compression stockings when I run my lab.
So great.
You're only going to the wrong customer base.
But but seriously, I mean, when we try to market, I would like to ask my question to Tractor, like you've been through, you've gone through. When you started up, like that point in time, how did you market it?
I mean, to that, what is the cost of customer acquisition initially and how do you bring it down?
And time frame.
No, I'm happy to share as much as that's why I'm here. So I'm also here afterwards as well, and please feel free to reach out to me anytime. Shashank@factor.com. So you both had very different questions. You also consumer acquisition, you also B2B acquisition. So let me start with B2B because that's where we started. So with cost of acquisition, right? So B2B cost of acquisition was so in a SaaS company. Now it's working. In a SaaS company, the rule of thumb is that your cost of acquisition should be your LTV by 3. That's that's your David Stock for entrepreneurs formula. But if you look at it, what we do is we do SaaS for SMB, which is very rare. You don't find that breed too often. SaaS for SMB in a feet on street model is a very rare breed. So you have to have unit economics very sharply fueled. And I think the shorthand answer to your question is, if your cost of acquisition is a year's revenue that you collect, I think that's a good healthy space to be. Okay, so we collect our revenues 1 year in advance from our doctors. And our cost of acquisition is usually equal to that. So that means that when we make a sale, we're already almost we're taking care of our cost. So that as a rule, that's That's probably the right answer for a B2B
And your
acquisition.
spending would be mainly CMEs or those kind of things? So are you using CMEs at all?
So actually we found that direct sales is the best methodology for doctors. So we stick to that. Of course CME is a cherry on top, and we don't believe CME can give you acquisitions. CME can give you some amount of brand awareness, and as Sir mentioned, a lot of good opinion leaders and key opinion leaders can be attracted in that forum. So your question on consumer acquisition, that's why I was trying to think towards that in the previous answer. That see if your business needs money to scale, not very unique, right? If your business needs money to do marketing, not very unique. Everyone needs money, right? So you have to find tricks and trades that others don't know of. So for example, in our B2B, people are not thinking feet on street, B2B SaaS, can you make it work? Nobody else was thinking about that. We were the only ones in 2009 thinking about it, so it worked. About 4 years or 3 years, 4 years back, nobody was really thinking dynamic data on the healthcare space. So we were thinking dynamic data on healthcare space, which gave us organic traffic. So for the first almost 1.5 years of Practo.com, we did zero marketing. There was no marketing whatsoever. Even today, our marketing is marketing gives us less than 10% of our traffic, right? So we really spend nothing. Even we usually do it just for experiments. So most of our traffic comes from our app users or from our organic traffic. If I were you, I would optimize organic traffic. I would use HubSpot. I would do organic traffic. If I can get organic traffic, then there will be enough people giving you money so that you can do marketing. If you don't get organic traffic, then it's a little harder. So I think when I was in your shoes, I would focus on how do I get organic traffic and viral traffic. That's the thing that in the first 1 year, if you crack, then you can easily scale beyond that.
Does she get the bag?
He decides. He's the bad. I give all the answers.
The first question deserves a point.
I want to give
another way of answering. The fact that it was asked first.
There are two kinds of market. One is pull market and another is push market. Sometimes people ask you where is it available. Sometimes we have to tell what we are and what we have. And suno, either suno, it is something which you have to do. These two have no common theory. Another aspect. Manufacturer should not brand it. Branding man should not sell it. All the three segments have different costs. If some startups thinking that I am manufacturer, I am branding, and I must be the selling, they are getting into mess. Get into first one area, make money, make others rich. Once others become rich, next you have to become rich. So this is my way of approaching. In my laboratory, when I started, I didn't have strength for customer acquisition. So what did I do? In the total revenue, I gave 60% to my distributors. I relaxed. They can't relax. This is one way of looking at it. I don't know what kind of product and what kind of market is. I thought my experience I should share. I have not got into selling. I got into only manufacturing, and branding happened naturally.
Okay, last question, and the gentlemen are here. So I know all of you all have a lot of questions, but we have 2 more sessions after this. And then we have snacks downstairs, so you can interact with them during the snacks time. So last question.
Yeah, my name is Purnima. I am a founder of Pop-Up Technologies. We are into mobile applications. Question is to Vishal. Wearable is very much in thing nowadays, and your product is, you are saying right now, is focused in US. Yeah. But I want to know is the readiness in India. What is your experience of Indian market in wearable technology?
I said, India, we first launched in India, and India already we have announced over 10,000 users, and India is accelerating like nobody else. So actually, India is going to be one of our big markets, and the users are completely ready over here. The smartphone penetration, it's all happening. The market is ready, and we are going to get millions of users on board.
Thanks.
So since nobody wins this, I have one last challenge. Maybe anybody can do 10 push-ups.
Can I ask a question?
10 push-ups. 10 push-ups, and maybe we can give. Come, let's see you do 10 push-ups.
In how much time?
At least 10. By the way, by using one hand.
Now it's a roadie's audition.
Just give it. My God. He doesn't need the book. He doesn't need this.
Next
then you need to give it back.
Only 40 years.
So you had a question, you said. Sorry, no. It's fine. You've given it away. Yeah.
So, folks, I think it was brilliant. Thank you so much to the panelists and for being a wonderful. Shall we keep sitting here or should we leave? What do we do?